Hi, everyone.
So if you are speaking I think it's easier to get stuff over here. You're not comfortable with that.
So I'm going to take my mask off so that I can be heard. But if that is not agreeable to someone, I hope you'll raise your hand and let me know. Thank you. So my name is Karen Brown. I'm co-chair of the ACA, and I welcome you all to today's 2021 annual meeting of the Arlington Center for the Arts. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all the board of directors, staff, artists, teachers and administrators, members, donors, and others in the extended ACA family. Welcome. I was last in this room just a few weeks ago at Arlington Open Studios, a joyful and hugely successful in-person event that celebrated the artistry and community connections that make Arlington and ACA an important and special place. Tonight's meeting is an important one, and so thank you for being here. We'll present and vote on a slate of candidates who wish to serve as directors on behalf of the ACA for the next year. We'll celebrate and express our gratitude to those outgoing directors, and then hear from our executive director on the tremendous accomplishments of the institution this current year and the exciting plans ahead. So let me turn things over to my co-chair and friend, Margaret Moody, to present the first slate of candidates. Thank you.
Thank you. Our board couldn't be more thrilled to welcome 3 new board members pending your approval, and they are jazz musician, teacher, and instrumental director at AHS, Tino D'Agostino, graphic artist and graphic designer, collage artist, Nilu Muchala, development director and enthusiastic camp dad, Ari Herbstman. So if you're here, I see Nilu, raise your hand, Ari, great. I think Tino's stuck in traffic, but we'll come. So we've nominated these candidates, and do we need to second, or we can just go ahead and?
I think, why don't we just be safe and ask somebody to second that?
Would anyone like to second our slate of Tino D'Agostino? Thank you, Jackie. Ari Herbstman and Nilu Muchala. And now all in favor, if you're a member? Great. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. We are thrilled to have you. Thanks. We'd like to reappoint some of our directors for more 2-year terms. So directors serve 2 years. Emily Belts, raise your hand if you're here. I know she's here. She is hanging out in the hallway because maybe she's not yet. Okay. Karen Brown, Kathy Garnett. Great. So do we have a second for the slate of Emily, Karen, and Kathy? Thank you.
Yeah.
All in favor? Great. Anyone opposed? Emily,
There you
you've
are.
just been reelected. Of your time and talent. Officers for the board serve 1-year terms, and they can be re-elected. So we'd like to re-elect Karen Brown as co-chair. We'd like to elect John Oliver as another co-chair, Julie New as treasurer, and Sarah Beyer as secretary. Not sure if I think Sarah may be on.
Sarah got boosted today.
Oh, okay, great. Can we have a second for that slate? Thanks, Judy. All in favor? Great. Anyone opposed? Well, thank you, board officers. It's terrific. We have board officer members who are currently in the middle, I have to say one thing that I forgot to say. If any ACA members who are watching this live broadcast on Facebook and would like to vote, please send the vote, yes or no, in an email to info@acarts.org no later than this Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. That's info@acarts.org. Thank you. We have members who are serving us and don't have to be voted on tonight, but we'd like to acknowledge their help. Patrick, and if you're here, please raise your hand, because otherwise I'm going to point you out. Patrick Guthrie, thank you. Bruce Hoppy, here. Thomas Kakelik, Nandana Mawada, me, and Romy Wilhelm. Thank you. We have 5 board members departing this year, and they've served us long and well, and we are very, very grateful. Judy Berman's artistic flair has brightened ACA's fundraising work for 4 years. If you've noticed really lush paper blooms at the Blue Jean Ball, eaten creative hors d'oeuvres, bought amazing auction items, thank you. For all the enthusiasm you put into ACA in every way. She has worked on all kinds of fundraising initiatives, organized the search for a new executive director, served as co-chair, and she's taught us all a lot about how an advisory board can serve. Wish you happy times in Vermont. I know Liz has a concert to go to, so I just want to tell Liz, if you need to speak, we have little gifts for them. No, great. The story we love to tell about Chris Levier is that he started as a camper at ACA when he was 5. He continued as a counselor, as an ACA teacher and an exhibiting artist, and then he joined the board. His understanding of this organization and of arts education goes deep. Hearing his views has been a really precious gift. I'm sorry Chris isn't here to be acknowledged, but thank you. And Chris, we look forward to working with you in any role you can think of in the future. Kirsten Swartz, perspective as an arts professional working at the city of Cambridge, was really valued greatly by our board and our staff. She leaves us too soon, but it's for a new job at the Brattleboro Museum and Arts Center in Vermont, and we wish her well there. And as you can see, there is some kind of ACA Vermont connection. I don't fully get it, but I'm just thinking they could start an ACA alumni chapter. Thank you.
Jackie?
Jackie, did I not say, oh my goodness. Thank you.
I was gonna say that, right?
Jackie Chakrabarty shared really thoughtful insights and questions that helped guide ACA through the challenges and uncertainties of the last few years. And I know that I really appreciated her knack for taking complex ideas and making them simple. Thank you, Jackie. Your work will have a lasting impact on ACA in years to come.
Thank you.
Okay, and I think now, Tom.
So hello, everybody.
Hello.
Thanks for being here tonight. My name is Tom Fulmico, and I'm the Executive Director of the Arlington Center for the Arts. And my thanks to all the board members, old and new. I'm so grateful to have you here tonight and to have worked with you, and for the folks that we're about to work with, I'm really grateful for that too. I have to say, what's most amazing to me is a year ago, after a year of like trying to figure everything out in the midst of COVID, I expected like there just to be this big flood of people saying that they didn't want to be board members anymore. And that didn't happen. Nobody left us last year. I mean, it was amazing. And I think that that's a little bit, I think there were people that were getting ready. I think it was organic that people were getting ready to say goodbye to us. And I think it's a testament to them that they really hung in there with us through what they knew was going to be a difficult time, and I will forever be grateful for that. I want to give special shout outs to two retiring board officers. Our board secretary, Bruce Hoppy, never shies away from rolling up his sleeves and giving whatever help is needed. He always has a unique perspective to share and cares deeply about community and arts, and that shows through in every conversation. Thankfully, he will continue to serve on our board, but not as secretary. I'm grateful to Bruce for serving as an officer and for continuing his service. He couldn't be with us here tonight, but I'm hoping he'll watch us on TV sometime soon. Margaret Moody was already a co-chair when I arrived to ACA, and she too will remain, thankfully, a board member, but is stepping down as an officer. Now, my own mother describes me as a bull in a china shop. I own that. And so I can only marvel at the tremendous sensitivity and thoughtfulness Margaret always brings to the table. I'm not sure, and I mean this, Margaret, I'm not sure you're aware of what a terrific leader you are or just how much influence you yield. But Margaret's the real deal. And I feel very fortunate to have worked so closely with her during these past 2 years with its wall-to-wall challenges. Thanks, Margaret, for your probing questions, your tireless search for better answers, and for the amazing grace with which you navigate every situation.
Oh, yeah.
Now to the meat of it. Where has the ACA been? Where is it going, you ask? ACA has been serving this community for more than 30 years, and perhaps never more urgently than in these last 19 months. Since COVID struck in March 2020, ACA has never ceased operations. We are so proud of that. Right out of the gate, ACA embraced opportunities to create virtual, hybrid, and in-person classes. We'd never done that before. If you'd asked me a month before, I would have said, nah, I don't think so. But we did, because we had to, and we knew that we had to. We understood almost immediately that serving our mission necessarily meant engaging all our constituents in the ways that they felt most comfortable. And that was a range of ways. We helped parents navigate disrupted schedules and routines by increasing the quantity and the variety of programming for children and teens, including Vacation Arts Camp. We gave jobs to teaching artists and to young adults. We prioritized opportunities for artists and teachers to grow and connect through professional development workshops. And we presented special programs and events, like an outdoor performance this past September with the Queen of the Blues, Tony Lynn Washington, and an Arlington Open Studios event just a couple of weeks ago that was bigger and better than ever before. We proclaimed a return to community celebration with this fabulous COVID-conscious in-person event that drew, by a really conservative estimate, more than 1,500 people to four locations. Pam and Annalise led the charge on that. Everybody had hands in it, but Pam and Annalise led the charge. And that event included our first ever Porch Fest stage, which featured live performances throughout the day, just put a great big spotlight on the whole event. And then tonight we're sitting here in this room together, which I'm so happy about. Amongst all of these great images and these great pieces for this exhibit reel, which surrounds us and which we're very proud to be presenting. Most remarkable of all, ACA just ended fiscal year 2021. Are you ready for this? With a surplus. Woo! That's remarkable. And that's because of the generosity of our supporters and our stakeholders, and also because of recovery grants from the federal government and the Massachusetts Cultural Council. We did not see that coming a year ago. We had planned for a deficit. And as we were getting closer and closer through the year, we were getting more and more excited about the progress that we were making toward our goals, which we almost universally exceeded. But that surplus came on the heels of a big COVID-related deficit just 1 year earlier. And the recovery grants that gave us a leg up in 2021 won't be available to us in the coming year. And so that means we still have a lot of work to do. And the support that you all and many, many folks outside of this room give to us is more important than ever, because we're still working to build capacity as we shift the balance from crisis management to sustainability during the year ahead. And that's really our focus going into 2022. There's lots to look forward to in 2022. Registration already open on our winter term, as well as our February and April vacation arts camp, and enrollment is super strong right out of the gate. Summer camp registration will open in January, and we are looking forward to 10 full weeks of fun in the sun this summer. We're hoping to run at full capacity. We were about 80% capacity last summer, so that doesn't seem like such a pipe dream to us. Our Blue Jean Ball planning is underway. You should all be looking for details coming your way early in the new year. March is going to see the opening of a brand new exhibit that we're collaborating on with our board member, Emily Bells. And it's going to include a really exciting series of related workshops and activities, and it's all going to explore our changing Earth. So be on the lookout for that. Super exciting. I'm very happy to report that on June 18th, 2022, we'll see the return of Arlington Porch Fest after a 2-year absence. We're also super excited about a brand new program that will be offered for free to area teens this spring. And my colleague, Kat Bodwin, who's ACA's Director of Education, is going to shed a little more light for us. So would you want to come up here, Kat?
Gladly. I'm glad Tom picked out a program because there's so many things that I'm super excited about. But my name is Kat Bodwin. I'm the Education and Programs Director here at ACA. I had to write stuff up because I just get so excited. I'm going 15 directions. So after a successful first pilot of our Teen Artists on the Issues, ACA is once again offering a free opportunity for young adults to own their artistic voices and make an impact on their community. In 2022, however, participating teens will spend 9 weeks instead of 1 weekend investigating local issues and produce their own documentary films. A project of this magnitude requires an expert facilitator, a role that will be filled by filmmaker, educator, and activist Michael Sheridan. Michael Sheridan has 20 years of experience providing intensive training in documentary filmmaking across the globe. His work empowering storytellers in conflicted and developing communities not only demonstrates his commitment to his craft, but also his work empowering individuals to elevate their own voices and inform the public to spark collective action. With his guidance, participants will learn all aspects of film production, from shooting techniques, composition, sound, story development, interviewing, and editing. By the end of this program, students will produce their own documentary, which they will share with the community at large. This action-oriented program will provide youth with new tools, inspiration, peer guidance, mentorship, and a space to share their work with a larger audience. Such a project could not be done without the generosity of the Bader Foundation, whose grant allowed us to expand the scope, technology, and impact of this program. Additionally, we'd like to thank our friends across the street at ACMI for sharing their equipment, their space, and their expertise. Seriously, we thank them. ACA's Teen Artists on the Issues program provides a critical space for young adults to learn the power of their actions, and that power is strongest when we are informed, when we are organized, and when we collaborate. The mission of this program is not solely to serve the teens in this cohort, but to empower the public to thoughtfully engage with the perspectives and values of youth in our community. These times call for effective and sustainable action, but none of that can be done on the issues and the thoughtful creativity indicative of this community's rising generation. Thank you.
Wow.
That's really super cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really excited about this program. Your support makes that programming possible. It also ensures ACA's ongoing vibrancy as well as our resiliency, especially during these challenging times. We're currently in the middle of our fall appeal. Most of you know, because you probably got a letter in the mail or an email, and our goal is to raise $50,000 by December 31st. We're almost at the halfway mark, so we're moving in on that goal. And every gift, no matter the size, gets us closer to that goal. If you haven't already given, and I know that many of you already have, so thank you, I hope you'll consider making a contribution. I also hope that you'll continue to be a part of the mix here at the ACA by renewing your membership when your membership expires, or by becoming a new member if you're not one already. This fall, our membership program got a facelift, and that was led by our student services manager, Michael Mayen. Many of you know Michael as our camp manager for many years, but this year he transitioned into a new role, and it's been amazing because everything Michael touches turns to gold. And he's going to tell us a little bit about that new membership program.
I feel a little silly calling Kat, but here we go. Yeah. So I'm Michael Mayen. I've been with the organization for quite a while. Feel like I'm kind of perennially known as, oh yeah, that guy. I've seen you around before.
Everybody thinks I'm Michael.
Yeah. But yeah, my current position here is as student services manager, and it's been a really kind of wonderful place to land with this organization. And one of the things I was really excited to sort of take on in my new role was our membership program, and sort of finding a way to kind of boost that program and build some more community connections with the local organizations, as well as sort of making it a more sort of interesting and engaging program for our actual members. So for this sort of facelift that we've done to the program, we've added additional membership levels. We have a new artist membership for local artists in the area who want to take advantage of all of the opportunities going on at ACA, including artist opportunities that we have for professional development. We also have an advocate membership level. We have a new friend membership level, as well as existing structures for senior members, family memberships, etc. We also have 11 arts organizations and sort of businesses around town that we're in partnership with at this point. So places that people love, like the Cyrus Dallin Museum, our neighbors at the Arlington Friends of the Drama, as well as the Capitol Theater and so many other beloved institutions. So it's been a really nice way for us to kind of just continue to build on those connections. And we've also sort of moved to a more digital membership model. So sending out those cards digitally to make it more accessible and sort of easier to keep track of those materials for our members. So this is sort of continuing an ongoing project. So I know that Annalise sent out a really wonderful survey earlier in the year about getting feedback from our current members or people who are interested in our membership program. And I hope that you guys will still consider sort of providing your feedback as we move through this new membership model. So yeah, I think that's all for me.
So, by the way, Michael and Kat are just two of the extraordinary ACA team members. That also includes Annalise Ruggles there in the corner, Pam Shanley, who always hides when I get to this moment, and Delia Thurnish, who you met when you came in tonight. I don't make a move without any of them, honestly. Finally, thanks again, friends, for being here with us tonight. And not just tonight, but through all the years. Thanks again for sharing our belief in the power of the arts to enrich lives and provide solace, hope, and inspiration. And I think we've learned that that's really true in the last couple of years. And on behalf of the board and the staff, I want you all to know that we really appreciate you. I'm giving credit.
Well said. Thank you, Tom. Before we conclude the meeting, and I want to remind you that we're next going to shift to the artist talk, I too want to say thank you to all the members and donors in attendance here in person and all those watching remotely. Your commitment to the organization this past year especially has been an inspiring boost of support, and in particularly challenging times, so it's been even that much more valuable. I want to echo Tom's ask that as you consider your end of year gifts, I ask that you should please consider including a donation to the ACA. contributions, large and small, are met with appreciation and help invest in the brighter future ahead. So please stay with us for the real panel discussion, which will get started fairly shortly. We're going to take a quick break of about 5 minutes to reset. So I encourage you to stretch your legs, grab a refreshment from the back, and then meet back here in 5 minutes. Thank you so much for being here.
Kat and Delia just reminded me to share a message with all of you. So we are still looking for counselors for our February and April camps. And if any of you know any teenagers that might be interested in joining us as counselors, the opportunity might extend to the summer, but there's no obligation that it will. So if you know of any folks, please let them know. Also, the program that Kat was speaking about is by application, because there's space in that program is somewhat limited. And that, hey Kat, are you close by? Is that application online now? The teens, artists on the issues.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so do you know of any teens that you think would be interested in learning filmmaking and talking about social justice? Send them to our website and tell them to send an application. If they have questions, they can give us a call. Good, fair enough. All right.
Social media.
All right. That's my commercial message. So, part 2. Since mid-October, the ACA has had the privilege of hosting our current exhibit, Real. And the reviews are still coming in. All of them are raised. Thanks to all the artists who shared their work with us and who quite literally made us look so good. Everybody who's walked in the space has just had marvelous things to say. It's been so much fun to show off the space to them. I'm grateful to our collaborators on this show, which was 2 years in the making because of COVID. And they include our juror, Phil Young, and our co-curators, Gwen Chasen and Dan Cianfarini. Gwen couldn't be with us tonight, but we are lucky to have Dan and Phil on hand to lead a conversation with some of the artists whose compelling work is showcased on these walls. And they include Paul Beckingham and Vicki Parrott, who's also an instructor here at the ACA, I might add, and Minna Rothman. And I believe some more artists might be in the audience, and so maybe we'll hear from them too before the evening is through. I should mention to everyone that tonight's program is being live streamed on YouTube and Facebook, and a recording will be posted on our website at a later date. So without further ado, let's kick off with just a few words about tonight's moderators. Dan Cianfarini is a watercolor painter who focuses on representational landscapes, often including an architectural or other man-made element to suggest the passage of time. Since beginning to paint about 20 years ago, Dan has studied painting and drawing in the greater Boston area and abroad, and participated in several solo shows, as well as numerous group shows. His work can be seen right now hanging in a new show at Arlington's Work Bar. I was there myself just last night. It's fabulous. Dan's work is particularly impressive. I recommend that you all drop in and have a look. Phil Young is an accomplished painter and respected art educator based in Arlington. He has long been intrigued by landscape and seascape forms, which, along with a strong emphasis on color relationships, are the basis for his abstract work. Different perspective here tonight. Phil has exhibited widely in the region, most recently in a 2-person show at the Concord Art Association. And so with that, I'm going to give you Dan, who is going to get this artist talk underway.
I've decided to use the lectern for my questions because it's the right reading distance for my questions. I would like to reiterate one thing that Tom started off with, and that is I'm really sorry my co-curator Gwen Chasen could not be here this evening. She had a prior commitment that couldn't be changed, and but she is with us in spirit. Maybe she's even watching now. Hello, Gwen. We would like to start by having each of our artists spend a few minutes talking about 2 things. We've asked them to discuss in general what we call their personal journey in art, and then to speak a little more specifically about their particular works in the show. And in case you haven't made the connections yet, Vicki has that gorgeous diptych called Just Before Winter, Fate on the wall there. Minna's exquisite hand-woven tapestry is the green willow one called Integration. And Paul's, well, if you walked into the room and thought there was a bar set up, that was Paul's room. So, I will do this in alphabetical order. Paul, would you like to speak about yourself and your work?
No. I'm not an artist by training at all. So I'm an engineer, and that was a lengthy detour, but I'm there now. But I've enjoyed drawing for a very long time. I was remembering that when I think it was 8, I was in school in the UK, and we had art class, and I was given a clipboard and a pencil and told to go draw something, and we would just wander out the school into the field, into the river, and draw things, and it was a great course because I was in school. So I loved that, and I've been drawing ever since and taking classes in various schools and the MFA, and recently wanted to do more sort of intensive work and really enjoy it, to lower stress and to have a hobby that was a little bit more creative and provide an outlet for creativity, whereas before I was doing other things that were not creative. And so the last 5 years I've been taking it very seriously and taking every class I can. I've been going through painting coaches and plein air painting and classes, really. Just endless classes, and it's tremendous fun. The learning is incredible. I love it, and that's it.
It's always amazing to hear somebody who's already so talented and producing such gorgeous work, to know that they're still studying.
Yeah.
I mean, I am too, but then I never had any formal training either, but I continued to study with 3 or 4.
It doesn't
Painters.
end. It doesn't end.
Yeah, it doesn't end, you're right.
Before tackling those bottle labels, I was afraid of lettering and having a really difficult time with it.
Yeah.
But that helped.
Yeah.
So did drinking.
Yeah.
No. They're empty now.
Vicki?
Sure, I have a very different path. I've actually been painting for almost 50 years. As I was preparing this, I was thinking, oh my gosh, how long have I been painting? So it's going close to 50 years. And my art journey started in high school as a moody teenager who found a home in the art room. And at the time, my school had a very serious printmaking studio with hydrochloric acid and presses and all the equipment we needed to make etchings and lithographs. And it was really my solace. I found solace there. And my teacher was an artist as well. And she presented really a way of being to me that really helped me get through high school. Then I headed off to art school where my goal was to continue to make etchings, but I quickly fell in love with painting. And I would say I haven't given up that love of painting after all these years. When I was in art school, I came in on the heels of abstract expressionism and color fields movements. And I did a lot of paint pushing and a lot of abstraction myself. When I graduated, I just felt lost until I reintroduced representational elements. And I really haven't turned back from that. Let's see. I think because of that connection with professors and guidance in abstract expressionism and color fields, I've always felt a need to have the paint itself be a major part of the piece, not just the imagery, but also the process and the paint. So I was painting representational paintings. And then in my 40s, I went back to school to get a graduate degree in art education. And I had the amazing opportunity to take a class with Barnett Rubenstein, whose work I had admired for many, many years. And I took Barney's painting class at the museum school. It was called Food for Thought. And being in his presence was a profound reminder of the power of direct observation and close observation. But he also had that notion of the importance of not losing the paint. He didn't want to lose that whole feeling of the paint in his, along with his imagery. So I'm a representational painter. The piece here is called Just Before Winter, and it's part of a series that I did inspired by walks that I was taking in the fall of 2020 near Alewife Reservation. That particular scene is on the path that runs along Route 16 from Alewife Reservation. It goes out to Massac. But I was noticing in the fall that everything was gray, everything was brown, and then you would come across some leaves that just managed to hang on, and they were so brilliant against all that gray and that brown. And so the entire series really plays with that notion of relativity, the brilliance against drab, that feeling of actually I use visual metaphor for the forces where the intensity is so much greater because of the opposite. And the whole series dealt with that.
Well, it's clearly a very visceral reaction to the brightness of those leaves that you had.
Yeah.
And that comes out in representational work.
Yeah. And while I am particularly interested in being able to feel and see the process and the paint, I never lose the thrill of depicting three-dimensional space on a two-dimensional surface. It's a thrill, and I just love it.
We're going to zero in a little more technically on that question in a bit, okay? It's one of the ones I was really itching to ask. Thank you, Vicki. Minna?
Yes, I would call myself a visual artist who happened to express myself in hand-woven tapestries. By training, I'm not an artist, I'm a physicist. Welcome. I started making tapestries when I retired. However, during my academic pursuits of atmospheric physics and climate, I did not have that much time for anything that involves fibers. Although the women in my family made beautiful things, and I grew up with beautiful things around me. Anyway, although I was working with computers all the time, and they even brought me here 40 years ago to this country, without intention to emigrate, I still was drawing and painting a lot. I was taking classes, at MFA and Art Center like ACA. And so I was very much into watercolors and drawings, and I would label myself as being a perpetual designer. Since I know for myself, I've been always designing something that would reflect the space that I sense around me. Is it the space in nature or man-made space, but space and light were always important in my life, with education in art or without. So I often get the question, what does physics and Tapestry have in common? And I don't know, the story is long, I won't have time to say that, but there is actually a lot of it in common. And when I started doing tapestries about 6 years ago, I started actually exhibiting. It came very natural to me. And I was attracted to fiber for its properties of interaction with light, which is very different than with any other medium. And also, it's the slowliness of the process, because in this life where we always seek instant gratification, seeing actually something being finished after so much involvement is very, very rewarding. And I must say, with tapestry, we tapestry artists don't know what we will have at the end.
Sure.
And I've been very, very fortunate that every of my tapestries very, very pleasant. And so it was the life, the space, almost organic nature of the process.
Yeah.
Because the weaver basically manipulates every inch of the fiber with her or his hands. And to me, it's a direct connection of mind and hands, and ending up with a tactile object. And that is just very exciting. So I'm still studying. I'm taking, I am constantly taking workshops with famous artists. I don't know how many times I went to New Mexico where I started learning weaving. I'm not a weaver. I'm still just a visual artist, but I do everything by the book and I like to experiment. So that's.
Thank you. I'd like to interject just one little bit of a few statistics I came up with, only because so far there's already been some mention of the various mediums that people work with. This show, which is absolutely gorgeous show, which I'm terribly proud of. I have no pieces in it, but you know, the work that Gwen and Phil and I did to bring it together, I'm very proud of. This relatively small show has 13 mediums in it. I don't know if you've walked around and noticed them all, but let me just give you a quick summary as a, sort of a statistic. 14 watercolors, 13 oils, 8 acrylics, 4 pastels, 3 fiber/tapestry, fiber arts, 3 pencil drawings, 2 pen and ink drawings, 2 etchings. Is Nancy here tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, Nancy's etchings. 2 glass mosaics, 1 wash, or maybe 2 since Vicky did a diptych, which I'll ask about later. 1 mixed media, which is mostly watercolor plus rust. That beautiful, subtle, gorgeous, tannish beige piece in the corner with the white frame. Go take a look at that up close. It's absolutely stunning as a study of just a few square foot of each. 1 granite and 1 marble. The granite piece, by the way, Kevin Duffy's thing called Bundle, is to me probably the one piece that's really pushing to abstraction. It's a great piece of the show. Okay, that's enough of my statistics. Phil, would you like to start off? We're going to ask specific questions of each of the panelists, and then after that, we're going to open it up to questions from you. And there's also some questions to go out to you all. Not just a couple of artists among you, but to everybody to think about. Would you like to start, or you want me to?
Oh, you can.
You want me to? Okay. Again, we're gonna go in alphabetical order, and I'll return to some of Paul's some of the issues that Paul mentioned. Paul, when I first saw your bar scene, two things came to mind. Two movements or periods, whatever you want to call them, from art history. And these two periods are 400 years roughly apart. The first one is the Dutch Golden Age, specifically the still lifes. And the second is contemporary photorealism. So my first question is, are you thinking at all in those terms when you were producing your work?
Sort of. The Dutch style and process is definitely something that I like. I particularly enjoy the full value range, the dark aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. The photorealism, no. That if the drawing is not wonky, if the colors are good enough, if the values are right, then the photorealism, it just sort of happens. That's not a goal.
Okay.
And I wouldn't classify that as photoreal. But
it occurred to me, but I didn't say to myself, I'm convinced that's photorealism. That isn't. Because to me, there's also, in photorealism, it's kind of emotionally neutral. Your piece is definitely not emotionally neutral.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's which leads to my next question.
There's stuff in there.
Yeah. Can you tell us about the quote Easter eggs in your painting? This is, where's Waldo?
That's what actually a friend keeps describing everything I do as. Another giant where's Waldo. Thank you, John. When you sit in front of that thing for weeks, you get playful. So it's fun to just put things in. So there's a bottle in there.
Wait, if you look in the
Yeah. I was going to put in a QR code. I practiced it twice on miniature things. I couldn't get it to work, so it's just a fake barcode in there instead of a working QR code. I couldn't get that to work. There's other things. There's a couple of stories in there, pieces that don't belong.
Okay.
And more.
Like the Z.
When we set this up, before we could actually select work to be in the show, stuff was just up against the wall all the way around. And obviously your piece stood out so dramatically, thinking about the theme of the show. And very soon after the show opened, it got a little red sticker on it, meaning it's gone. And I wanted to ask you how you feel about, after spending so much time, because that obviously took a while. How do you feel about
getting rid of it?
Well, how do you feel about seeing it go? I mean, getting the cash is nice, but do you have any remorse about saying cha-cha?
No. There's 80 at home sitting there. I want them to go. No, I don't get attached to them. That would be bad. The house would be filled with.
Is that among your most complex pieces?
No.
No? Oh, really? Okay.
No, not even close.
In case you haven't seen there, Paul also did two really sweet, smaller paintings in the kitchen area. They're not as deep, or certainly not as intricate, they're not as deep as the bar scene one, medicinal compound. In those, the subjects are just sort of emerging from obscurity. So you don't have that, you certainly don't have as much depth in those two, but certainly they're the same genre in a sense.
How long did it take you to do it?
The balls was 6 weekends.
So that's
I mean, it was a long day, but
Yeah.
it was 6 weekends, yeah.
Was it one complete setup, or did you do it piecemeal? Did you do like portraits of bottles and then link them together?
No, they're, ashamed to. What I was trying to do was arrange it and then shine the light in from the left and try to get the light to go all the way through the bottles. It's impossible.
Oh, right.
But I noticed that you could get like a bottle with a brown liquid. The light would go through, it'd be brown on the label, it would affect the label color, go through another bottle, which is green, and it was interesting. And the reflections off the bottles are not white, as was the light, they're green and yellow.
Yeah.
So it was all one thing.
Strong light source on the left.
Very strong
Yeah.
single light source.
Yeah.
And probably some stray lights as well. But
Yeah. It was a wonderful material richness. That's what reminded me of the Dutch Golden Age. You know, they were just enraptured by the material wealth around them in food and drink and, you know, luxury objects. And
right.
you get a sense of that joy as well as the humor in your piece.
Thank you.
Okay, Vicky. A couple of weeks ago, there was a Zoom lecture by Wilhelm Neuser, a Cambridge painter, and his current obsession or preoccupation in this lecture was called limited access. His current preoccupation is dealing with paintings in which the foreground sort of stops you from entering the spatial depth of the picture. And his lecture was fascinating. He showed examples of this from Van Eyck all the way up to his own work, and Josephine Elvison at BU. And I thought of your piece because those bright yellow leaves in the immediate foreground are incredibly bright and lush and almost stop you because they're kind of in your face as a person walking into that woods. And yet there's still the suggestion of a fairly deep depth. Were you consciously thinking of those yellow leaves as a bit of a screen and how to get around it to still show depth?
I didn't think of them as a screen. I think of the in-your-face foreground as a way to put the person in that space, as opposed to like a Hudson River School looking out at a landscape and being outside of it and looking in it. It's a way to put you right there.
Okay.
I mean, it's in your face. You can't avoid. That one, the depth is a little shallow in there, but it does have some suggestions of the urban. I mean, when you look across Route 16, there's some houses and there are things like that that kind of help to expand that a little bit. But I really like that notion of putting the viewer there with me, right there. Yeah.
Okay.
When you started, did you think, well, I'm going to do a diptych, or you do one and another one happened and it became? And why wasn't a third for a triptych? How did that happen?
I think of diptychs or triptychs as being a challenge, a formal challenge of making each individual panel work alone, but also play along with the others, and so that it can comprise a whole piece. This one, it was actually designed, I didn't do one panel and say, oh, I think I'll continue. I actually had, I use photographic resources for imagery, and I had these, they're often composites. It's not exactly what you might encounter there, but I designed this one to be a diptych.
Okay.
I don't know why not 3. I could have done 3. There was a lot of material to work with, so I
But you-
really could have gone
But then
3.
breaking that scene down to either a diptych or a triptych, by dint of putting in that extra framework, you're already creating a bit of a screen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm not saying any of this is bad. That's what's so fascinating about Wilhelm Neusser. He's just exploring this notion that's been around for hundreds of years. You know, are you inviting the viewer into the space? Are you putting an obstacle? If you're putting an obstacle, why are you doing an obstacle? Neusser's work, one of the last things that he did, I believe, is a gorgeous view looking across Fresh Pond, except you're looking at it through a chain link fence. He drew in every single, all these diagonals that comprise the chain links, and you're looking through them to see this more or less traditional view of Fresh Pond. Fascinating work. So just playing with that is enjoyable.
I think it's also a matter of saying there is beauty there, even when it's not what you might normally think as beautiful. Like, I know that painting, the chain link fence painting, and it just set up that whole situation. I mean, it was a beautiful thing, even with that chain link
Yeah,
fence
it's still,
there.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
That's gorgeous.
it's a way to.
He knows good landscape. Any connections, any influence from Neil Welliver?
Love Neil Welliver. And his paintings, you also feel like you're with him there in those pieces. I would say I often talk about Neil Welliver in my classes because he and I part ways in the process he used. He would start at the top left corner, he would work his way down, and when he got to the bottom right, he was done. And I feel like everything is relative and you don't know what you need to do in other parts of the painting until everything is there. That relativity is important to me in building the painting as opposed to working in the fashion that he did. I don't know how he, that was wild.
Yeah.
That was really a wild process.
Yeah. You know, in his paintings, you want, especially the woodland scenes that are incredibly intricate and dense, as if you're about to step into and sink into a bog or a swamp.
I love to be connected to people. Thank you.
I might add, if any of you have any questions regarding anything that's said,
Yes,
feel free
please.
to ask, as opposed to waiting till it's gone by.
Yeah, please jump in if you have questions or comments. I have one last question for you, Vicki. I noticed on your website that most of your work is gouache.
Yes.
And
I happened upon the medium. I did not know of it until I saw a Robert Freeman show of Italian landscapes done in gouache, and I said, what is that? The color blew me away. And he's not known for that, right? He does these large cocktail party figurative pieces in oil, but the show is just stunning. And when I happened to get a set for Christmas that year of gouache paint, and I love the matte surface, I love the rich color, I love the ease with which working with water-soluble paint gives you. I don't have to worry about toxic fumes or anything. And I love the way it handles the body of the paint and the layering. I was an oil painter and I can work with it in similar ways, but it has some added features to it that I can bring up the paint on the surface. I can, and it's just a wonderful medium to work with.
But you've worked in regular watercolors too.
Oh, yeah. I have.
And gouache doesn't drive you crazy?
Building, no, I love to build it, and the planning that you need to do for a watercolor, it's not easy for me to do that kind of planning. As I said, I love to build them, and I can change an area completely. I mean, you have to commit with watercolor. You're committing early.
Oh, yeah, you do.
I don't have to.
Yeah.
commit with gouache.
Yeah, you pretty much have to know all the light areas or the white areas that you're gonna leave. Yeah.
So I guess it was a matter of just following along with the medium. And I'm working on clayboard, and then I varnish it, so I don't need to put it under glass like a lot of them.
Yeah.
I think that's working.
Minna, I'm sorry, Phil, did you?
No,
Minna, several people have talked about, have noticed the sparkling threads and the rectangular shapes that are woven into the greenery. Can you talk about their meaning?
The meaning is much deeper, and the whole tapestry is made out of wool, and I am pretty much religious about using high quality tapestry material. So I am reluctant to put anything shiny into the tapestries. Maybe sometimes a string of silk or something, but the meaning of this composition required something to sparkle in the water. I don't know if you ever looked at the pond and you can see a piece of aluminum there or some can or something, and it kind of sparkles in the water. But the whole tapestry is a metaphor for how human experiences become jewels in the water of life. So that's why I use these embroidery floss that I added to the wool to get that little sparkle.
Okay.
There.
And can you elaborate on title integration?
Yeah, I've been thinking when I heard about the question, how I can say it very in 5 sentences, but it is a little deeper theme. It's integration of human experiences during the life. When we look, I often think about how at this phase of the life, I'm not writing my memoirs, but I am weaving my memoirs. So, the theme of the tapestry was really inspired by something much, much more drastic and traumatic that eventually becomes a part of the life fabric as the healing takes place. As you know, the title of my tapestry is actually 2015 migration.
Right.
In 2015, Europe for the first time recognized that they have a migration crisis. And we are looking into a future where we will be seeing a really drastic migrations around the world. In 2015, I was in Europe and I saw those migrants, 2,000-3,000 of them per day.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing these people just with all their possessions in a little grocery plastic bag, only with their life, nothing else, trying to live. And it just had a very big impact on me. And those were refugees mainly who were unwillingly removed from their communities.
Mm-hmm.
So they really didn't have a choice. It was not their choice. And in these communities, their lives were integrated in the community. The conflicts, the war, particularly in Syria, destroy those communities, and their life becomes fragmented.
Mm-hmm.
And the fragments that we see in the light coming into the pond are actually their fragmented life, trying to continue living.
Mhm.
And the pond itself is a healing place. And integration of those experiences into the water of life that makes us who we are is the title of the tapestry.
So it's also
Now-
important that those are willows, right?
Those are willows which are known for the medicinal, their bark is known for medicinal properties. And also I happen to have a willow pond near the place where where my studio is. And I found that to be a place of calm and quiet. And so that's why I picked that up as a metaphor. But there is a larger story to this. This is about the individual, but we never in the world had this many people on this planet. And we will be seeing these massive migrations. And each individual, as we are changing the societies, each individual may be going through this transformation and becoming different people. We will be seeing nations becoming different. We will be seeing human race being different. So we really go from individual scale to a planetary scale. And that, I think, comes from my climate science. That was the motivation for that tapestry and the meaning of integration title.
How long did that piece or a piece like it, how long does it take?
Tapestries take a long time to make, and everyone asks that question. The weaving per se is not that long, but I go through every step of the process the painter goes, and I do work in layers. Given my watercolor training, I developed the concept. I do not paint because I can never resemble the colors that the tapestry will have, but I already see the tapestry in my head. I always see the image before I even start making it. But these drawings, paintings, research, exploration of the fibers, and it takes much longer time than weaving. The weaving per se, and for this tapestry of this size, in terms of man-hour, maybe it was 3 months of working 8 hours a day, but I was not working 8 hours a day. I worked for it about 2 years.
But is there a preliminary cartoon or sketch?
No, the traditional tapestry was kind of known that the painter would make a painting and then it would go to the weaving studio and the weavers would make a tapestry. The contemporary tapestry and the tapestries that I make is very different. I actually do a lot of drawings. First, I do collages to get a composition, and then I do drawings, and I work everything in black and white way. So it's mainly the pencil and graphite. So I don't work with colors. When I create the composition, I work with the color values. And then during the weaving, there is a lot of preliminary work to see if the color scheme would work. During the weaving, there is a lot of interpretation. My cartoons are just sketches, just a couple of lines. The rest all comes from the hands and the mind.
So there's changes and choices you're making as you're going along.
Exactly.
I think on your website you use the phrase, it's a dialogue between the weaving and the weaver.
Yes, and I think every artist knows that. When you paint, you stand away from your painting and you look at it. The same is with the tapestries. However, the challenge with the tapestries, especially when you have a tapestry this side, is that you cannot see it entirely. You cannot go back. You actually have to listen to the process where the fiber wants to go. And if you really are present in the moment and you listen carefully, because there is no room for mistakes, the beauty comes out. And that's it. That's what is the most appealing part to me. I don't mind working hours and hours. I never live longer than 3 hours a day, but I don't mind spending my time doing that because it's really a beautiful feeling. And that's why we are artists.
Phil, did you have a question about setting up the loom?
I just remember in college in a textile class dressing a loom, and
Yes.
it's not easy.
No, it's not easy, especially the floor rooms, and I don't do that. The tapestry rooms that I work with are called high work rooms. They are like a big frames, and they have components just like a floor loom, and you have to do the threading and all this. But I put enough warp. Warp is the material that is inside the tapestry that goes up and down, and weft goes horizontally. I put the warp like 15, 20 yards of warps. I have enough for 2 years of weaving.
Yeah.
So that is helpful, yes. And I wanted to mention just one more thing about the influence of artists. I do follow pretty much, I am very much into color, so the Bauhaus school, and I'm very influenced by Paul Klee actually. So the little fragments.
Okay.
So when I do,
Right.
when I work out the light and dark areas of the composition, Paul is in my head. And when I work in layers, and he has been working with the weavers at the Bauhaus, so his thinking is very similar to where I'm going.
Any comments or questions at this point for any of the panelists? Or the things we've been talking about? Since Miller raised the issue of metaphors, it leads me into the next big question that's open to all of you. Of the 55 works in this exhibition, approximately 1/3 have titles that are either really metaphorical or nearly metaphorical in nature. In other words, they're not simple. The title is not simply a statement of what the particular subject is. So these works that are metaphorical or quasi-metaphorical in title seem to be pushing towards a broader meaning. I open, and would any of you like to comment on metaphor in the way you work? Are you thinking of, well, I think you are, but I hate to put words in your mouth, but are you thinking beyond what the actual image is toward another kind of a higher meta statement or whatever you want to call it in this postmodern world?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, medicinal compound.
Yeah, that's part of a song lyric from 1968. Mother used to sing it, and it's all I could think of when I was doing it. It's sort of a puerile story, humorous puerile story, and sort of loosely related to lockdown. Very loose. But all the thinking of metaphor came up front, not near the end. It was just very much at the beginning, thinking, what can it be?
Well, as I was dwelling on your title, the other possible meaning of the word compound is like a collection of like dwellings close together that are somewhat, like think of the Kennedy compound in Hyannis, that are somewhat isolated and protective. I was thinking all of these bottles were a kind of protection against COVID. I'm sure that's not what you meant, but
No,
That was a one layer of meaning that occurred. That
I was
occurred.
thinking chemicals.
Yeah,
Chemicals.
yeah. Vicky?
Just before winter added a time element to, like another dimension.
Yeah.
And with that series in particular, I really was thinking about that notion that good is gooder because there's evil, or health is healthier because there's sickness, and this notion of that brilliance against the drab, it's just so much more brilliant. So I do think of metaphor. I mean, you choose an image for a reason. Often it's a formal consideration. It's just some beautiful, it just grabs you and you just can't let it go. But there's usually some other reason why you get to that point where it's compelling and you have to paint it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the metaphorical
Yeah.
component to that.
Yeah. How do you choose titles? That's one that not always, that's one that bothers me a lot. I tend to call my paintings exactly what the subject is. And I've been criticized for that by some people. There's no humor. Why aren't you saying something else? And I said, leave it to the viewer to figure out what I'm doing. So how do you approach titling?
I did ask social media for suggestions on titles. And
They do it.
it didn't. No, don't
work.
No, it was 1,000 different versions of
Art by-
the pandemic first aid kit.
Art by committee never works.
Right.
Mina, yours,
Yeah.
your choices I think are clearer.
A friend of mine, artist, she said, I always know the title before I start making the art. But I don't. I do have working titles that usually go with the metaphor that's behind or whatever I'm designing. But sometimes I ask my friends, artists, for the opinion, and I use thesaurus a lot. To see if I could come up with actually, I have more problem with exhibits when I need to give a title. How is the title going to fit into the theme of the exhibit? That is my challenge, but I always have a working title.
Yeah. Well, we often change the titles to make it fit.
Yes,
Right.
that's right. Well, on the tapestry, it's actually printed on the back. I cannot change it.
It was suggested to me that if you can't think of a title, just write something mundane and translate it to Italian, which I've done. Here.
Any comments about that last exchange about metaphor and titling? No?
I was just gonna say, it's just really so interesting and such a privilege to hear your process, and it's a beautiful show, and thank you. So many things I want to comment on, but the last thing you were talking about, you choose an image for a reason, and I feel like, this is celebrating representational art, yet you all have like this intuition that something speaks to the universal. There is, even if you don't have it explicitly in your title, but that it's going to reach us because we share some experience that it speaks to. So, I know the setting, and it's so nice to, I know it's beautiful, and it's an urban wilderness, so that to me has great meaning.
Thank you for that, because it leads to our last question. And that is, have you worked at all abstractly? And if you have, what's the relationship between that and the representational work you do? I mean, I know there's abstract elements to everything, line, color, composition, et cetera, but you know what I mean.
You going?
Let me try.
No abstract for me. I don't do abstract.
Okay.
But of course, the closer you look, the more it does look
Oh,
abstract.
Yeah.
I actually work in abstract, and the reality comes out from the weaving itself, from listening to the tapestry. Because in order to produce certain details, my thinking process is very important. Like if I wanted to have a bark on that tree there, I am imagining its coarseness.
Yeah.
I am feeling that bark, and that's what I weave, and it becomes real.
Yeah.
And after that, I look at it and say, gosh, I am creating a tree out of my thoughts.
Yeah.
So, but it's basically abstract. It starts as an abstract with 3 lines.
Mhm.
I have my moments of abstraction, but the representational elements that guide developing a color palette and a mark-making system for the representational elements in it, it's just so compelling. I think there's always a representational element in my work now.
Yeah.
It just has to be there right now.
Right. Okay. Any other comments? I think,
Great.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
I know I don't have to say this, you can tell. But Phil and Dan really thought long and hard about what this session would look and sound like. And they, I think, just did a spectacular job. This was fascinating. It was so great to hear you all. And you were a wonderful, wonderful guide. This show is open until January 14th. It's by appointment only. But please tell all of your friends. It's really easy to make an appointment. You just have to go to our website and sign up. And we would love to see more folks. There's been a nice, steady flow of folks to the gallery, but there's always room for more. So please, if you haven't been and spent time, or even if you have, come on back. Tell your friends to come and see the show as well. Thank you for being with us tonight. We've loved having you. It's so nice to spend time with you in person. I hope everyone has a nice holiday.
Thank you.